Sri Gurubhyo Namaha. Welcome to our online Kashmir Cultural Heritage Awareness Series. Today is our 67th week, and our speaker is Sri Lalit Parimoo. The topic is Tantra and Sadhna. And today's prayer is by Parur Dr. Harini Srivatsa. Harini ji is a great granddaughter of Parur Sundaram granddaughter of Sri M.S. Anantharaman, and daughter of Srimati Bhagirathi, retired head of Queen Mary's College. Please go ahead, Harini.
I'm going to sing a couple of lines from Shiva Samhita today. Phalashyatiti Vishwasah Siddhe Pratamalakshanam Dvitiyam Shraddhaya Yuktam Tritiyam Guru Pujanam फलिष्यतीति विश्वासः सिद्धे प्रथमलक्षणं द्वितीयं श्रद्धया युक्तं तृतीयं गुरुपूजनम् चतुर्थस्तमता भावो पञ्चमेन्द्रियनिग्रहः षष्ठे परिमिताहार सप्तमं नैव विद्यते चतुर्थस्तमता भावो पञ्चमेन्द्रियनिग्रहः षष्ठे परिमिताहार सप्तमं नैव विद्यते Mute. You're on mute.
Can you hear?
Yes.
Okay. Our viewers know Harini ji quite well, as she appeared many times in our series before. While she is an accomplished Carnatic musician and violinist, prayer songs are always special with Harini. She would always ask if there is going to be suggestions by the speaker, and this time Sri Lalit Parimoo suggested two from Kularnava Tantra and Shiva Samhita. Harini's prayer, I think, was based on Shiva Samhita. As we restricted to 1 or 2 minutes, I think she picked up only one. Maybe we would continue with the other one next time. We also want to thank our Sanskrit scholars associated with our series, who are also very close to Kanchi Mutt, who helped us in getting the scripts for Harini to do the tuning. So many thanks, Harini, and we look forward to seeing you more often. We thank Kanchi Mutt for our ongoing series and offer our namaskaram to His Holiness Sri Shankara Vijayendra Saraswati Swamikal for his guidance and support from Kanchi Mutt. Kanchi Mutt has always been in the forefront, modestly working with the sole aim of national integration, spiritual enlightenment, and preserving the uniqueness of Kashmir, as Kashmir is our cultural heritage. We are very pleased to welcome Sri Lalit Parimoo with this brief intro. Professionally, Sri Lalit Parimoo is an Indian film and television actor known for his performances in Shaktiman, Haider, Scam 92, Mubarkan, etc. He has also conceptualized Abhinava Yoga, which is a combination of acting skills and yogic techniques, and has been imparting training to aspirants. Since the year 1993, he took deep interest in Indian philosophy, yoga, tantra, and spiritual practices, and studied it under various teachers and organizations. He got initiated into Tantra under Guru Sri Anantmurti Ji and has been practicing the various aspects of Tantric cult. Wrote a book titled मैं मनुष्य हूँ and a booklet Bhagavad Gita Ek Sanvad in Hindi. Once again, we are delighted to have you, sir, and look forward to your presentation today.
Namaskar to all the viewers and listeners who are watching it. Firstly, heartfelt thanks to the organization, Kanchi Mutt, and particularly Mr. V. Shankarji, who has been in touch with me for the last 3-4 months. I have been watching a few videos on this platform, and they're very interesting and inspiring. And I must congratulate the organizers for such a noble work, which they're doing it continuously. And special thanks to Dr. Harini ji. She rendered this sutra from Shiva Samhita so nicely and so well. And I was just imagining and thinking that had this been a live platform, it would have created a wonderful environment. We have been listening to this sloka and talking about it at various platforms, but in a very simple way, Phalishati Vishwasa Siddhir Pratham Lakshanam Dvitiyam Shraddhaya Yuktam. But the way she has rendered, it has really touched the deeper chords of our heart and mind both. That's what music does. That's what we can think and imagine, that it used to be happen like this in past when speakers used to talk about the subjects, philosophical subjects, accompanied by musicians. It really creates a beautiful environment, and mind slowly goes away from the physical world and moves into the subtler and deeper layers. Anyway, let me begin with my topic and subject, Tantra and Sadhana. I will present it in a very simple way, as if I'm talking to beginners, without going into too much of philosophical aspects of so many tantras which are available through books and other areas. In brief, first, I must say in 2 minutes that how come I got interested in it. As my introduction was read, since 1993, I took deep interest in Indian philosophy because of certain psychic conditions which were happening to me, that I was losing my interest in the physical world, and I was wondering that why I'm running after money, why I'm running after fame. Is it the only goal of human's life? I was wondering with such questions, and one fine day I got a book of Swami Vivekananda, rather 4 books, Karma Yoga, Jnana Yoga, Bhakti Yoga, Raja Yoga. It's a very famous 4 books. I read that, and suddenly my mind started wandering into the world of spirituality, and a taste developed, and I was chasing Swamis, monks, speakers who were giving lectures on Bhagavad Gita, Upanishad, and all kinds of other philosophical subjects, like books of Shankaracharya, Saundarya Lahiri, and so many other books, schools of philosophies, Nyaya, Yoga, Vedant, everything. Wherever I used to find time, even in my outdoor shootings, I used to visit these speakers. Ultimately, I've realized that the entire secret lies in Tantra. An entire secret lies in having a guru. An entire secret lies in awakening of Kundalini. Then I started chasing people to find a guru, and finally I came across few monks of a particular organization, of which the guru Shri Shri Anandamurti ji is known as a master there, and his sadhana system, which is based on Tantra. And I learned that. I learned sadhana from various schools, various teachers, including Ramakrishna Mission, including Aravind Ashram, and many other well-known, lesser-known organizations all over India, wherever I had time to go. But all this was happening while living in Bombay. The surprising part is this. So in this Shri Shri Anandamurti Ji's system, within 3 to 4 months, I found certain changes in me. And I found that sadhana is doing something phenomenal to me, and it is affecting my inner world. And within 1 year, I was a changed person. And within 2 years, I had completely wonderful experiences of sadhana, which are well known as the experiences of samadhi or experiences of anand. Anyway, I don't want to continue this story for long because it's another chapter right now. So I understood Tantra the way Sri Sri Anand Murti Ji taught. And then later on, when I studied Tantra in its deep form from books, particularly I was fascinated by the Tantra written by Kashmiri scholars. What I learned was already mentioned in Shiva Sutram, in Tantra Lok, in Tantra Sar, and of course in other tantric texts like Malini Vijay, Rudra Mal, Kularnav Tantra. We have 64 books on Tantra. There were 64 schools and all that, which was happening some 1,000 years back. Right now, I am not aware of major schools that are practicing Tantra the way it was long time back. Even in Kashmir, it is not practiced the way it was. So our Kashmiri tradition of Tantra is our past. But a lot of material, the theoretical material is still there, but we don't have teachers. And I have learned and I'm spreading it at my own level with my own whatever capacity I have through this social media and live lectures also. So let's begin with the subject Tantra and Sadhana. As the topic says, it has two parts. One is Tantra, what Tantra is. I'll talk first. First half will be what Tantra is. The second part is Sadhana. Actually, the wise people say that Tantra is sadhana. What is sadhana? It is the practical way of getting connected, coming close to the Parama Purush or the Supreme Father. In Tantra, the Supreme Father is clearly mentioned as Shiv. Shiv is the originator of Tantra. Shiv is the originator of Yoga also. And he's considered as the Supreme Father. So your practical movement towards Shiv is the practical aspect of Tantra. Let's understand the basic definition of the word Tantra. It has two syllables, Ta and Tra. In Sanskrit, it can be, or in Hindi, it can be defined as Jo Ta se Tran Dilai. Tran is emancipation. And Ta. Now here, it's very interesting to understand that Tantra very scientifically explains all the 50 Indo-Aryan Sanskrit alphabets from A to Ksha. It's a huge chapter, generally named as Matrika Chakra. So letter T, all letters starting from A to Ksha, they represent the acoustic vibrations of the cosmic energy. The Shakti, now Shiva and Shakti is also a particular subject in Tantra. But right now, I'm just saying that these 50 letters, they denote something. They also, in ordinary way, are known as Devatas. They create the world. The manifestation of the universe happens with these 50 letters. So, Ta represents the static force. Ta represents Sushupti, the inertness, the lethargy, the staticity within all human beings and in the cosmos also, at all the three levels, physical, psychic, and spiritual, is Ta. Now that which emancipates from this static force is Tantra. A very simple definition. And Tantra exists in all three layers, physical, psychic, and spiritual. So in modern times also we can understand this, that whenever you are struggling against your weaknesses, whether it's your physical weakness or psychic weakness, and of course the spiritual weakness, whenever you are struggling against these weaknesses, these limitations, you are practicing Tantra. So Tantra basically was a proper science. It was developed very systematically, and it can be applied today also. Anyone who wants to get up at 4 o'clock in the morning and he is not able to get up, he gets up at 7 o'clock. But again, every day he tells to himself that I will get up at 4, I will get up at 4. And one fine day he gets up at 4. He's applying Tantra. Simple way. So Tantra means application of force. Without application of force, Tantra doesn't exist in all three spheres. In spiritual sphere, it is first accepted that human beings are in spiritual slumber. We may talk high about divinity, we may talk high about philosophy, we may talk high about God and Paramapurush and everything, Shiva and Shakti and all the creation, but in reality, we are spiritually asleep. The intellectual understanding of the concepts does not give us the certificate that we are awakened spiritually. It is through Tantra and through Tantric practices, through Tantric sadhana, that one awakens. So that awakening in the spiritual world is Tantra. I'll explain all that. It has proper concepts. I'll talk about that. So in spiritual world also, Tantra is the same thing, emancipation from spiritual slumber. And another definition of Tantra is that it breaks the bondages. It encompasses your mind. That which broadens your mind, that which gives you emancipation. You are no more a frog in the well. You no more live in a very parochial thoughts. You are a world citizen. You become so vast and you understand life in its totality. Your vision is 360-degree vision. This also is one of the meanings of Tantra. By emancipation, this happens to an individual. There are two aspects of life according to Indian philosophy, generally named as Vidya and Avidya. So there is Vidya Tantra, there is Avidya Tantra. Long time back when I started giving lecturing, generally when I came across people and asked, what does Tantra mean to you? So generally opinion is, it creates fear. It means something jadoo tona. It means mambo jumbo. It means Uchchatan, some mantra, this and that, Om Phat, Om Swaha. All this is what common people know. And all this is what people in films have shown. Unfortunately, the filmmakers and writers, they are not aware of what real Tantra is. And they show only a Havan Kund and some ritual happening and Om Phat Swaha and all that, basic mantras of, but it is all science. Phat, Om, Swaha, they all have deeper meanings. Anyway, it's not the right time to talk in detail about them, but the Vidya and Avidya, this is to be understood. What is Vidya and what is Avidya, and what is Vidya Tantra and what is Avidya Tantra. This is to be understood. Example is, if we understand the whole, if we take an example of the whole universe and consider it as a circle, just think of a circle with its nucleus and circumference. The center, the nucleus, is Paramapurush, the Supreme Father, the Supreme Consciousness. We may call it Brahma, we may call it Shiva Shakti or Shiva, whatever name is okay with you. That's the absolute entity. And the entire human existence lives on the circumference. Not only human, but the entire existence, which includes birds and animals and trees and the flora and fauna, everything. So what any idea, any concept which takes you towards the center is Vidya, is Vidya Shakti. Vidya Shakti means moving towards the Paramapurush, moving towards the Supreme Father. So any activity, any noble work, any ritual, any ideology, any activity, any sadhana that takes you towards the Paramapurush, where the ultimate aim is liberation or immortality. Well, there is no confusion about it. Indian philosophy, Indian spirituality straight away declares this thing, that all spiritual practices have one primary goal, which is merger in the Supreme Consciousness. There are no two ways about it. So that is done by Vidya Tantra. So Vidya Tantra talks directly about liberation, breaking the bondages of the physical and the psychic world. And what takes you away from the center? That is Avidya. Any idea, any activity, any work, any ideology, any ism which takes you away from the center, from the Paramapurush, the distance, it's all about the distance, which is called a radius. From the circumference till the center, there is a line which is called radius. So if this radius is long and long, it is avidya. If it is shortens, it becomes less and less, it is vidya. So Vidya Tantra deals with awakening of Kundalini and merger with the Paramapurush. That is Vidya Tantra. And there is a Vidya Tantra also, which exists, of which people talk about this Jadu Tona and all that. That is Avidya Tantra. Avidya Tantra is more close to what psychology is today. Avidya Tantra talks about gaining certain powers, gaining certain mental powers like hypnotism, like Uchchatan, like Mohan, Maran, Sammohan, Vashikaran. These kinds of some mental capabilities. Avidya Tantric would be more interested in extracting money from somebody else's pocket by hypnotizing him. There are certain mantras and all that connected with that, and we will do that, practice that. All that is Avidya Tantra. In the history of Tantras, the Vidya Tantra got deteriorated, and in the past 1,000-1,200 years, it is mostly Avidya Tantra which is functioning right now. Even if we see somewhere it's happening, very few organizations and very few teachers are practicing Vidya Tantra, which is the awakening of the Kundalini and your merger with the Paramapurush. In the history of India, Kashmir and Bengal, they have been very strong centers of Tantra. That is why something connected with Tantra is still there in people from Kashmir and people from Bengal. They do have some kind of fascination, some kind of interest, because genetically it is continuing from there. Yes, in South also, there have been tantrics which have done some great work. But by and large, if you talk of a particular area, then Kashmir was a very strong center, and Bengal also was a very strong center for a very long time. But the Vidya Tantra in its totality has been, in a way, it has reached its derogatory stage, and the Vidya Tantra took over. In modern times, I would say our Guru Shri Shri Anandamurti Ji has revised and revitalized the Vidya Tantra. Now, what exactly is Vidya Tantra and how many major schools of Tantra have functioned in past and even now? If we divide these 64 schools, in what categories do they come? Out of these 64, the best schools are the 3 schools. And even today, if one starts learning Tantra Sadhana, he has to go through these 3 stages of Tantra, which are known as Shakt, the number 1, Vaishnav, number 2, and Shaiv, number 3. So what does it mean? Shakt is the stage of a beginner. A Shakt sadhak is a sadhak who has taken the responsibility of awakening of divinity. He has learned from a guru. He is initiated properly in a system, in a sadhana paddhati, and he struggles with his weaknesses. The weaknesses are generally termed as Shadripu and Ashtapash. Kama, Krodha, Lobh, Moha, Mad, Matsar. They are 6 enemies, and 8 bondages are Ghrana, Shanka, Lajja, Bhay, Kul, Sheel, Man, Jugupsa. He struggles with them. And this stage is also known as Yatman stage. In this stage, one is more like a warrior. The way I gave an example of getting up early in the morning. Similarly, a sadhak who gets initiated, he struggles with the timings. He's told to do his sadhana twice a day. So he has to fight against his lethargy and force himself into sitting twice in a day. So initially it doesn't happen. And then there are other friends, colleagues, family people who generally discourage you from the sadhana. They think that this man is going to become a sannyasi, he will leave the family, he'll go into forest and all that. So this is the stage of a Shakti. He has to fight against everybody at that stage and convince himself and others that what he's doing is the right stage. And slowly he overcomes all the obstacles. Sometimes it happens that he loses it. So if he loses it, he loses the path. That's what it happens. But if he fights, he stays on the path and he crosses this stage. When he crosses this stage, he has gained certain control over many of his vrittis, many of his propensities. And then he enters the second stage, which is the stage of Vaishnava, where he realizes that every expression is the expression of Shiva. Every other entity, he doesn't have any enemy now. He has mastered many of the ripus and he has mastered many of the pashas, many of the bondages. He's no more a struggling, he can't fall now. A Shakt can fall. There is a possibility of degeneration of a Shakta sadhak. A Vaishnava sadhak will not fall because he has reached his awakening of Kundalini, has taken a particular level from where there cannot be any degradation. He may live in poverty, no issues. He may have minimum friends, but he will not fall. He will be a real citizen of the whole universe, not only of the planet Earth. He feels connected with the entire solar system. That's what the stage of Vaishnava is. And the third stage is the stage of a Shaiva. Shaiva thinks only of sadhana. Now, in today's times, there are very few Shaivites, pure Shaivites. But the Shaivite sadhak he is disconnected with the physical world or the mundane world. He has nothing to do with the achievements and other aspects of the physical world. He's only interested in his sadhana and higher realizations, higher samadhis, for which he is keeping his body alive till he doesn't reach the final stage, which is the abode of Shiva, or the merger with the Parimoo. So these are three stages of a beginner and then an accomplished sadhak: Shakt, Vaishnav, and Shaiv. Now, I'm just seeing the time. Before we enter into the world of sadhana, what sadhana is, in brief, I would like to explain what is the theory of creation of the universe according to Tantra. In past, it was mentioned in a very different way, but in today, it can be understood in a very scientific way, in a very psychological way, because people think psychologically, people think rationally, and they want rational answers to many of the questions. And suppose the question is, what is the need of sadhana? Why should one do sadhana? Sometimes you read so many books and you come to this conclusion that, oh yes, as a human being, I'm a divine person. So by reading about divinity, you think you become divine. No, it's not so. Just by reading about divinity, just by reading all philosophical books, you become divine. It's not so. To attain this divinity, you have to struggle hard, and the only path is Tantra. Now, here, it's just by the way, but I must explain this point also. In Indian spiritual system, since 5,000 years, there have been two paths of initiations. One, the Vedic path, and the other, Tantric path. It is said that Tantra existed in India before the Aryans came. Tantra existed in a very haphazard way in South, and the Dravidians were actually Tantrics. The struggle between the Aryans and non-Aryans actually is the struggle between Aryans and the Tantrics. Tantrics were actually practicing in South initially, and they had some control on their psychic world. They had a lot of psychic power, and they were termed as Rakshasi Vidya also. In many tantric texts, it's mentioned like this. So they could control or hypnotize another party because everything was done through war. So in war, they could use this power of hypnotism and disarm the opposite party. So Aryans learned Tantra from Indians actually, Dravidians particularly, and later on it was incorporated in one of the Vedas also, the school of Tantra, and many prayers and many sadhanas are mentioned, many fundamental ideas of Tantra are mentioned in Vedic books. But over a long period of time, when the whole thing came under the control of priests and Brahmins, the Vedic initiation was separately kept and Tantric initiation was kept separately. Vedic initiation means that we are praying to the God. We are praying to the Lord that, oh Lord, please take me on the path of light. It's like a simple prayer. Asatoma sadgamaya, tamasoma jyotirgamaya. So you are invoking, you're praying. It is a kind of suggestion. It is a psychological device. It is not happening. It may or may not happen. But in tantric initiation, a disciple is under the control of a guru, direct control of the guru. Guru takes charge of the disciple. It happens in tantric path. And the proper method of moving towards this Lord is taught. There is a proper method, which in Tantra is the awakening of Kundalini. Now, I said this before I explained the creation of the universe, and then the concept of Kundalini also gets explained, and then why and how this Kundalini is to be awakened is the next part of today's talk. So, I clarified what is Tantric initiation and what is Vedic initiation. So, coming back to the point of creation of the universe, in brief, it is a very long chapter. It might take nearly 2 hours to explain the theory of the creation of the universe. See, everywhere there are theories. We have a Big Bang theory. We have another theory. There are so many theories in science also today. People are exploring ideas and trying to understand how this universe came into being. So Tantra has a very clear-cut explanation, which many people also must be knowing. The concept first is of Shiv and Shakti. This is the fundamental idea of Tantric theory of creation. Now, who is this Shiv and who is this Shakti? Firstly, we must not confuse these concepts with the images. We have been associated with images since long, but let's forget about the images. Shiv is the origin of this universe. Shiv is the name of this absolute entity. But Shiv is not alone. Shiv is along with its Shakti, which is the power of consciousness. It's like fire and its thermal energy or thermal heat. It's like water or its power to quench thirst. It's like 2 sides of a page. So the moment you talk of Shiv, Shiv is not an isolated entity. It is with its power. So when the creation happens, now how and when the creation happens? Originally, this entire universe is in a completely unmanifested state. It is Shiv unbound. Now what is this bound? Unbound. Shiv with its Shakti is not bound. Shakti is represented by 3 principles: Sattva, Rajas and Tamas. Now let's understand it in a very diagrammatic form. I don't have a board or pencil, but we are all students, good students, so we have been students of maths and science. We can understand. Consider a huge vast oceanic figure of consciousness, which cannot be seen by eyes, which cannot be imagined. Imagine this Shiv as a vast ocean. On the body of this ocean, there is no water, there is no ocean, but just ocean of consciousness, which cannot be seen, which cannot be expressed. There is Shakti with its 3 powers, Sattva, Rajas and Tamas. So consider a huge circle and these 3 lines, Sattva, Rajas and Tamas, moving haphazardly, randomly here and there. When the Supreme Consciousness wants to create this universe, he wills it. It's just a metaphor. It cannot be explained in any other way. Why does he will? How does he will? We can stop those questions at this moment with this, but in order to understand the theory, the will creates the universe by these 3 principles which form a triangle. On the body of this vast cosmic consciousness of Shiva, a particular area gets bound. Now, even at this stage, the whole thing is very theoretical, but it's a balanced triangle. Sattva merges in Rajas, Rajas in Tamas. The example is again in an ocean, icebergs are formed. Iceberg is a small area of ocean which has become solidified. So here also in the vast body of cosmic consciousness, a particular area gets entangled. Now that is the binding of Shiva with the help of Shakti. The name of this supreme consciousness which is bound at this time is Param Shiv, and the Shakti which binds it is known as Shivani. Now Shivani or the Shakti exerts pressure on this body continuously. With the pressure, another stage comes. Every time a pressure is exerted, different stages of the manifestation of the universe happens. In the next stage, Shiv becomes Bhairav and Shivani becomes Bhairavi. Initially, it was the Sattva principle which was predominant, the sentient principle. In this stage, the Rajas principle is predominant, the Rajasic energy of Shakti is predominant, and Shiv becomes Bhairav, Shivani becomes Bhairavi. With another round of complete pressurizing of this Shiva, which is now Bhairav, another stage happens, which is Bhairav now becomes Bhav and Bhairavi becomes Bhavani. Now here at this stage, when Bhairavi has become Bhavani, the balance of triangle is lost. There is no balance in this triangle. So from one of the vertices, creation moves forward in a straight line. That point where these triangle meet and the one of the vertices from where the creation moves quickly, that point is known as Shambhu. And that is with the help of tamasic energy, tamasic force, tamasic Shakti, the creation moves forward. And the next three stages are of Bindu, Nad, and Kala. And then after Kala, so many Kalas keep on happening and so many stages keep on moving. It moves on to the cosmic Mahat, cosmic Aham, cosmic Chit or cosmic mind. It reaches the stage of cosmic mind. And then when more pressure is exerted, it reaches the stage of Akash, Vayu, Agni, Jal, and Prithvi, the last stage. Prithvi is the last stage. So here you can understand this arc of creation from Shiva to Prithvi Tattva. The last Tattva is the matter, solidified matter, which is known as the Bhutattva, which cannot get further crudified. It is the last stage. So this is one arc of creation. In other schools, in Western schools, this is known as the arc of descent. In Indian philosophy, this is known as the Sanchar Kriya. Sanchar Kriya is the movement from subtlest Shiv to the crudest Prithvi Tattva. And from here, now from the Prithvi Tattva, another movement takes place. It takes place because of the interatomic clashes, intermolecular clashes. And then new forms are being developed. It starts with a single cell, then to the multiple cells, then to the lower plants, then higher plants, then lower animals, higher animal, and then the last animal, highest animal, or the evolved animal, man. This is what happens. This is known as evolution. From earth, from the matter to man, there is a movement. So this movement is known as arc of ascent, and in philosophy is known as Pratisanchar. So this kriya of Sanchar and Pratisanchar is the entire circle of creation. Now the whole thing doesn't stop at man. So if we draw the whole diagram of the circle, we know that we have come from Shiv. The whole existence comes from Shiv. So man has a desire to go back to the home. The home is where? Is Shiv, from where he has come. Particularly, the Bhavani is the first home. And then Bhairavi is the first home. And then Shivani and the Shiv is the last home. So all sadhana is connected with this going back home from where we have come. Thus, man or human being, they need sadhana to go back to the home, to go back to the original abode from where they have come. This is the dance of creation. And all other objects, all other jivas also keep on dancing, fluctuating, sometime becoming a tree, sometime becoming an animal, sometime an insect, sometime a very rich man, sometime a pauper, sometime a money in the bank. All this happens in the Pratisanchar Kriya. That is why it is said since ancient times that human beings have got this birth only to get back to their original position, get back to the original Shiv. That is why human beings have this conflict. Till the existence of animals, there is no conflict. Only those animals are in conflict who live with human beings, who get love from human beings. That is why they become in conflict. they become half evolved, and thus they get new sentiments, new emotions. Human beings are in conflict because in past they have been animals, in past they have been vegetables. So the past life also attracts to them. That's why it is said the lower half of a human body is animal body, and the upper half is the human body. And the goal is the divine body, divine life. The divinity is the goal. So, as we have seen in this theory of creation of Tantra, that this Shiva with Shivani reaches a stage of human being. Now, we have this divinity within us. And where does it lie? The Tantrics found an answer that this divine force is started from the Bhavani Shakti, and which is known as the Kundalini Shakti, lies within human beings in a dormant stage. So that divinity has a place in human structure. Kul in Sanskrit is also known as the base. Our human body is standing on a base, and the base is our spinal cord. The base is our lowest vertebra, and which in Tantra is known as Mooladhara Chakra. Chakra is another topic which needs to be talked and mentioned. So this chakra has this Kul Kundalini residing within it in a coiled serpentine form. It is a vibrational force. Only if it is awakened, only then one can attain the layers and levels of divinity. Otherwise, this divinity remains asleep. It remains unawakened. So human beings have a possibility of becoming divine only by awakening of this sleeping divinity which resides within us in the form of a coiled serpentine force within our nervous centers. Now here we come to the sadhana aspect of the Tantra, which is the second part of today's lecture. And here, only in brief, I'll explain that the three major nerve currents or nerve channels were found by ancient wise people, and they were named as Ida, Pingala, and Sushumna. If we take our spinal cord as our reference point, the central nadi, known as Sushumna nadi, travels from the lowest vertebra and reaches the highest stage somewhere on the top of the crown. And it is a very empty, vacuum-like nerve channel. On the left-hand side, travels crisscrossing around it Ida nadi, and on the right side, crisscrossing around it, travels another nadi known as Pingala nadi. They're also known as the controllers of the sun energy and the moon energy. Sushumna is the central canal or central channel. They're all psychic bodies. If you cut the human structure, dissect it, you will not find anything of these things. They are psychic nerves. So where Ida and Pingala crisscross each other, that junction point is named as chakra. The first chakra is Mooladhara Chakra, which is the starting point, the Kul. The second point is somewhere near the genital organ, the Swadhisthana Chakra. The Mooladhara Chakra controls the solid factor. The earth factor of our human structure is controlled and guided by Mooladhara. It has other propensities also, but basic function is this. And the second is Swadhisthana, which controls the liquid factor, the Jala Tattva. The next, the crisscross meeting point of Ida and Pingala is around our navel, which is the Manipur Chakra, and this controls our fire element. And the next chakra is Anahat Chakra, which is somewhere near the midpoint of chest. And this Anahat Chakra controls our air factor. And the next chakra is Vishuddha Chakra, which is The biological point is our Adam's apple, the throat area, and the element which is controlled by this chakra, Vishuddha chakra, is Akash Tattva. Now, the 5 elements from earth to Akash are controlled by these 5 chakras, which I just mentioned. And if we have to explain what are these chakras, it's another point. But in one line, chakras are combination of our mind with pranavayu. It's a huge chapter. Mind and pranavayu function they function very together. So these 5 elements are controlled by these chakras, and the next chakra, which is Agya chakra, the point is midpoint of eyebrows, and it controls mind. If we have to gain control over our mind and mental faculties, it is through Agya chakra. And then the last chakra is the Sahasrar chakra, where the Sushumna Nadi stops. That is Sahasrar chakra, the crown, 10 fingers distance from Agya chakra. And that is the seat of consciousness. And that is the seat of Paramashiv. That is the seat of Paramapurush. The entire divinity exists there, not in the lower chakras. So now Tantra, with its sadhana, explains very clearly the movement of awakening Kundalini begins from Muladhar, and with the help of Ishta Mantra. There's another chapter called as Ishta Mantra. We awaken our sleeping divinity, which crosses through these chakras and ultimately reaches the Sahasrar chakra. The journey of Dharma is complete. Now, in one line, in theory, it's very simplified way I've said it, but it's not so. Even if you do a lot of sadhana, how sadhana is done, I don't have time enough now to explain how sadhana is done and how Ishta Mantra is used in order to awaken this Kundalini. We'll need some other time, sometime. Again, I will have to come and explain what happens with the help of Ishta Mantra and what is Ishta Mantra, what is Ishta Chakra, what is Mantra Chaitanya, what is Mantra Awareness, how the mantra functions, what is the difference between Ishta Mantra given by a guru and so many other mantras of which we do chantings and all. It's all explained. So Tantra is very clear that a mantra, which is known as Ishta Mantra, it's very close to, it's the dearest mantra to an individual who does sadhana, and it is only of 2 syllables. Like, there's no harm in sharing a mantra like popular mantra, Ram or Hari. It has been used since ages. They're of 2 syllables. With your inhalation and exhalation, it is fitted into our pranavayu, and then a procedure is taught, and one learns to awaken the sleeping divinity residing in Muladhar and takes it to the Sahasrar chakra. So Sahasrar chakra is the abode of Shiva in Shaiva Tantra. In Vaishnava Tantra, the same name is different, which is known as Krishna. And the sadhak who is practicing the awakening of Kundalini is known as Radha. So what is the entire sadhana system? It is the meeting of Radha with Krishna. Where? Inside. It's all inner world. Jeev meets Shiv inside. Radha wants to meet Shiv. And the whole procedure is inner procedure. And what happens when, with the help of mantra, what happens to the sleeping divinity? Why is it called as coiled serpentines? Because in the shape of a snake or a serpent, well, it was intuitively found that it is a vibrational force which stays inside the Sushumna Nadi. Actually, inside Sushumna there is Chitrani Nadi. And inside Chitrani there is Brahmani Nadi. Inside Brahmani, the Kundalini is existing. And with the help of Ishta Mantra, done with a particular methodology, taught by the Guru, and following certain rules and systems and procedures, one bombards that Ishta Mantra on this sleeping divinity, and that divinity starts moving. something happens to it, it doesn't remain coiled. What happens? It stands up. It becomes like a staff, a stick. It becomes like a stick and moves up. The path is through the Sushumna Nadi, and it moves in a very dynamic way in a straight line, crossing all chakras. But it doesn't move or go up because of the impurities existing within that particular person. Otherwise, everybody would have done it, everybody would have awakened the hidden Kundalini, everybody would have become a divine person. So, if you are impure in your mind, in your habits, it will not work, because the impurities will stop that passage. It's very interesting to know. The crisscrossing of Ida and Pingla creates a knot, and that knot gets tied up more and more. It's all vibrational. It becomes very strong knot if one lives a very immoral life, a very impure life. And if one lives a pure life, a moral life, a very simple life, then those knots loosen up. Then the passage for the awakening of Kundalini becomes easier. Then it crosses one chakra, another chakra, another, third, fourth, fifth, and reaches. It's not essential and necessary that every time it awakens and it will reach, it will fall down. It will move up and fall down. So whenever it moves up, feeling of bliss is experienced by the sadhak. That is the divine happiness. The proof of good sadhana, the proof of awakening of Kundalini is by the experience of samadhi or the experience of bliss. And he develops more and more taste for it. But sometimes, because of the person's old sanskar, old habits, he wants to attain something big in his material world. And the moment he becomes a little powerful, he tries to achieve those, fulfill those targets, and then he loses his way. So the whole procedure is like the snakes and ladder game. One sometimes moves up, one sometimes comes down. The more one clearly understands the science of working of this awakening of Kundalini, the better his passage becomes, the better his understanding becomes, and smoother the journey becomes. But it's not smooth in the sense that there's only bliss, bliss, bliss. No, it's not so. The more you get evolved on the path, the more capacity to experience sufferings also is very important. Because that way you become more and more purified. अग्नि में तपना और जलना पड़ता है, तभी आप प्योर होते जाते हैं. So in brief, this is the whole story of Tantra which I have said. I could not speak more on Ishtamantra and other aspects of it, as the time is already moving. So next time, if I get an opportunity, I would love to talk about the other detailed aspects. And it's really an adventurous journey. कहते हैं ना कि गिरते हैं शह सवारी मैदान जंग में. To live a very simple life or very safe and secure life is easy, but the way of a tantric or the path of awakening Kundalini is a very dynamic life. It's a very life full of adventure, because it has much rise and fall, and it develops your will also, it develops your stamina also, it develops your vitality also, it develops your vigor also, and it makes you a complete human being. Thank you so much for listening to me. And
no, it's interesting. We all practice yoga here. There is a big group, and I always used to wonder. Most of these yoga practices are all combined with the pranayama, and the way you explained about the chakras. So practicing yoga leads to all this.
Correct. Definitely, it is. With yoga, you build your inner world, you build your nervous system. The asanas and pranayam, they strengthen your nervous system. And as in yoga system, we have yam and niyam as the beginning lessons. They're very important. Without yam and niyam, no sadhana can happen nicely. So before even asanas are taught, actually, a real guru teaches you these 10 principles of satya, hinsa, asteya, parigraha, brahmacharya, shauch, santosh, tap, swadhyay, Ishwar Pranidhan is all taught very nicely. Only then your asanas also become fruitful. See, what is the purpose of asana so far as sadhana is concerned? It purifies your nervous system. It creates the passage. It makes your passage clear, cleanses it. And with pranayam, you learn the control of pranavayu. And then from the next chapter, next limb, the next step, which is pratyahar, and then dharana and dhyan. Pratyahar is moving inwards, concentrating inwards, which is with the help of mantra, you learn to go inside. So going inside is again an exercise or a system of sadhana where this body with mind, which has a natural habit of going outside, it is extroversial, it moves outside. Body functions with indriyas, known as motor organs and sensory organs, Gyanendriya and Karmendriya, which are 10 in number. Like eyes naturally go outside, ears listen to outside sound, tongue wants to talk and it goes outside. Same is with our hands and feet and everything. So when you learn pratyahar, which is going inward, you start with the first action or first training is that you learn to sit in a posture and close your eyes. Do not listen to any sound and reverse the tongue. The sense organs are not given a chance to move out. It's like a movement of water is stopped. When the movement of water is stopped, it will create energy. So indriyas are not allowed to go outside, what will happen that they will start going inside. And inside there is pranavayu. With the help of pranavayu and the mind, they become a force, and then Ishta mantra is bombarded, or it is the japakriya of Ishta mantra is taught, and then you are given a particular seat known as Ishta chakra, mostly the Agya chakra, sometimes Vishuddha chakra, and you concentrate with intensely, and then certain results can happen. And then in the next stage, dharana and dhyan is taught. So the whole exercise is to make your mind one-pointed. When the mind is made one-pointed, kushagra, ekagra and kushagra is the word. It's like the tip of a needle. If mind becomes like a tip of a needle, what happens during sadhana? Mind only vibrates the Ishta mantra. Ishta mantra is only happening at that time. And then that is one fine moment, it dives deep into the pool of consciousness, which is the world of Atman, which is the real world, where the Shiva or Krishna or the Supreme Father lives. That mind jumps into it. And there you experience bliss and anand. You lose the sense of time. You are not aware where you are, but the feeling is beautiful. It is 1,000 times more beautiful than any of the worldly experience you must have gained so far. So, in brief, this is how it is done, but you learn it slowly and steadily. Yes.
You also mentioned about the struggling with these three weaknesses. That means everybody is going through the struggle in a way is going through his tantra. You said
Yeah.
that.
Yes, suppose you are following principles of Tantra when you are fighting against an obstacle. That is what ancient tantrics said. Tantra was a science. See, they give the best example. How does a child walk? Child crawls on 4 legs. But mother forces a child after 8 months or 9 months, come to me, come to me. The love of mother forces a child to walk on 2 legs. But what happens? He falls. Mother encourages. But he gets up and moves to mother. Again he falls. So this fall and rising, this is Tantra.
Now, role of Kashmir now today, with all the turmoil going on and the issues, is it still, if somebody wants to go and learn in Kashmir, those are not existing, right?
You can learn outside better. Right now, the conditions are not that conducive.
So, one of the aspects is we have to bring back all this past glory. That's what you
Definitely,
have been
definitely.
talking about.
Yeah, see, the modern times have given us new opportunities. I mean, this is a great opportunity. The social media, we can connect. You living in South, I living in Bombay, and we can have sessions. The online world is happening. Somebody from America can get connected. So times are changing in a different way. One need not go to Kashmir to study. Those days are gone now. One can study like this also.
Now, the reason I mentioned Kashmir is we always gravitate towards Kashmir finally. and we think of that, bringing back the past glory and bringing people like you who are all explaining all this. So one must be wondering, all this is lost, and what are we doing?
But still, some efforts are being made. Like your organization is making an effort, so it's a good sign. So nothing is lost. Actually, in cosmos, nothing is lost, and everywhere there are phases, it comes like a crest and trough. It comes like waves. So Kashmir, once upon a time, the Pandits of Kashmir were always in forefront, so whereas dharma is considered. Now the times have changed, and we have seen a lot of downfall, but revival will happen, and it is happening slowly. I always say that Kashmiri Pandits have a very great role to play for the entire humanity, and the role is of a teacher, of a spiritual teacher. Kashmiri Pandits have that ability very genetically coded in them. But right now it's not happening like that. They have the genes, they have the gene pool is there, but it needs to be harnessed. Maybe it will happen, maybe it will take another few more generations, but it should happen, it will happen.
Hope we start seeing some development in our lifetime soon.
Certainly, certainly.
So, what is the next step now? Those who heard would like to keep in touch with you, or you have a website, or how do
I
they
have a
want
number
to?
for Tantra and Sadhana. I have a number. People can directly get in touch with me. You have my number. You can
Right.
share my number if someone wants to learn, because it's a slow process. It cannot be done through website. And generally, the sadhana practices are kept secret. They're not disclosed. And it's a very one-on-one basis it is done. In a group, one can talk more about the theoretical aspect. Even the practical side can be discussed only to a certain level. But after a point, it is very individual. It is taught individually. And the teacher has to monitor also the student. It's not once you have learned it, and then you can't run away from the teacher then. You may run away, then you run away permanently and you have lost it. It's like this. But a teacher will always see to it that you're not committing mistakes, because on the path of Tantra, rules are very hard, very harsh. Like somebody learns from me, and if he commits certain mistakes, he will be forgiven, but I'll be punished. I'll have to bear the punishment which my student has done by not following certain rules. It's always the senior who's punished. It's like in good families, if parents have not taught children, a 5-year-old kid cannot be blamed. It is the father and the mother who are to be blamed if a child of 5 steals something from a shop. It's not the fault of a child, it's the fault of the parents. That's how here it is. It's at every stage, it is a teacher who is very important, unless and until he realizes that the student has reached a level where he can be on his own.
Very good. We'll leave with that note, and we'll stay in touch. I'm sure we will see you again sometime next year and
Thank you.
continue
Thank you
this
so much,
topic.
Shankarji. It was nice. Okay, namaskar.
Namaskar. We'll stay in touch. Thank you, sir.
Thank you.
We want to thank all our viewers for our continuation of our series, which is now today 67th, and we will continue in next year also. We will make some changes in our program, which will keep you informed towards the end of December. We will have programs up to 31st December. Then January onwards, we have something lined up, which I will explain towards the end. We want to thank Kanchimat channels for streaming, and also VDSP for streaming support as always. Dinamalar for covering our events every week in print media. Once again, we thank you, viewers, till we meet next Saturday. Jai Jai Shankara, Hara Hara Shankara.